Welcome back to my channel. I'm Dina Haynes, and I am reading you my book called Neesa. It's a contemporary romance that is available on Amazon as well as Kindle Unlimited. So if you have that little perk, then you could just slip into Kindle Unlimited and read. There's 2 books out right now in this series. It's called the Original Reality Book Series, and I feel like I'm talking in one stream of consciousness, and who knows what the heck I'm saying. If you have not watched chapters 1 through 10, we're going into chapter 11 right now. You definitely want to go back and listen from the beginning, unless you're one of those weird people who likes to start in the middle or maybe even start at the end and then go backwards. But anyways, so definitely go back. There's going to be links. There's a link below. There's a link in the video. So go back now. Otherwise, I'm going to drop some spoilers. Chapter 10, I don't know, it was probably kind of... Basically, we saw... It's so crazy to say that about my old book. Ruben met up with Schaefer. He closed the case, thank goodness. And then he went to his favorite bar and met his favorite bartender named Craig, who seemed like a kind of a cool character. And he's admitting to someone that he likes a girl, but in a special way, which I get the feeling Ruben's never done that. So Ruben was definitely remembering the stuff that happened in that closet. And now I'd like to see how Neesa is dealing with what she did in the closet. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so that you'll be notified when the next chapter goes up. And chapter 11, Neesa's perspective. My mood remained in Pittsville as I leaned against the quartz kitchen island overlooking the Silver Lake Hills. Open house was about to commence on another beautiful multi-million-dollar home, and all I could think about was how Annabelle had pimped me out like some cheap whore. I expected those tactics from Claire. Pimping was definitely in her wheelhouse, but Annabelle was innocent, naive even. Once I stopped being so angry, I'd have to talk to her about boundaries. Stupid me. How had I let things get so far with Ben? And the worst part was, I'd liked it. I wanted to bottle up the sensations and keep them in the side drawer next to my bed. But as long as they came attached to a pompous ass with caveman-like tendencies, it wasn't going to happen. Stuffing my frustration so it couldn't be detected, I turned toward the oven to check on the cookies. A wave of heat rushed out, reminding me how hot things had gotten in the laundry room that night. God, I wanted him more than ever. No, I chastised myself. I'm flipping that script. I placed the sheet of cookies on the counter and fanned the pot holder over them, refocusing on work. With the kitchen next to the front door, the smell of cinnamon and vanilla filled the downstairs. Whoever walked in would never want to leave. I had mixed the sugar cookie batter last night and chilled it in the fridge until it was time to leave. Toll House cookies didn't have anything on my organic ingredients and Madagascar vanilla beans. I may have been diagnosed to cut most of the sugar out of my diet, but the old recipes were still at my fingertips. Fingertips. It was a benign word that held new meaning for me. I gritted my teeth as another wave of arousal washed over me. It was happening all the time now and in the weirdest places. At the store, walking my dog, during my Monday meeting at work. The rumor mill around the office embarrassed me on the regular lately, with my coworkers collecting a pool of money to guess who I was sleeping with. I moved around the island to the corner where I had displayed the flyers and fussed over their placement. I proclaimed this the House of Windows. It was a huge contemporary modern structure with lots of smooth angles and curves, white walls, and skylights everywhere. I'd never live here. The place had no soul, hence why I needed the cookies for insurance, to fool people into thinking the house was homey. And I played a part too, donning a stylish little apron over my clothes. The sound of car doors slamming signaled the first visitors. I rushed over to the cooling cookies and shoveled them onto a doily-covered plate. A youngish couple walked in with a toddler and a baby in tow. "Welcome home," I greeted them. The mother's face lit up. She was clearly surprised to see a domestic goddess at the helm of the kitchen. I said, "Please, have a cookie and a flyer." I held the plate out, and the little girl beat them to it. The mother scolded, "One cookie, Grace." I went back to spooning more dough onto the cookie sheet. I asked, "Is this your first home?" The father said in a not so enthused tone, "We're selling our condo, trying to expand for the family." I said, "You're in the right place. Each child can have his or her own ensuite bedroom in this home, and the school district is great, within walking distance even." The mother gave her husband a pointed look as if to say, "I told you so," and I used the distraction to set the timer on my phone for the cookies. When I turned my attention back to the couple, a man walked in alone. He took a flyer and proceeded to meander through the first floor spaces. The father asked, "What's the square footage on this place?" even though the stats were all on the flyer in his hand. I said, "Over 3,000 square feet. You'll be pleased to know the entire upstairs is a master's suite. Plenty of space for you two to get away for some alone time." I winked and the father smiled. The soulless stranger made his way from the living room to the dining room a few feet away. I caught him staring at me, or rather diverting his eyes as if he had been staring. There was something weird about him, although maybe I was projecting after all the nonsense with Ben. The man looked harmless enough, as if he belonged in the cast of The Big Bang Theory. I encouraged the family to tour the home while I kept a close watch on the oven. Once the last batch of cookies was ready, I transferred them to the plate and turned the dial to off. I hadn't seen the solo guy in a while, so I searched until I found him in one of the smaller bedrooms on the first floor. I said, "Hi there, can I help you with any questions you might have?" He spun around and smiled. "Oh, hi. I'm just looking." His voice was quiet, much like his demeanor, the way he sneaked inside and sort of glided through the place, barely noticeable in the background. Plus, he had the kind of build that can only be described as waif-like, his limbs willowy and delicate and his shoulders narrow. They made him appear even more harmless than I had originally assessed. I asked, "Are you looking to buy for your family?" His face went from surprised to confused. I said, "I only say that because you're in one of the children's rooms. If you were single, then this would make a great guest room or a home office." He chuckled. "It sounds like you're hitting on me." I widened my eyes and almost choked with laughter. "No, I guess it might have sounded that way." He stepped forward and stuck out a hand. "David." I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself." His handshake was a little clammy and weak, his fingers so slender it was like shaking a woman's hand or a child's. "I'm Denise. So I take it from your reaction you don't have kids, but from the ring on your finger, maybe you're looking to start with the missus?" I must have hit a sore spot because he made a face and grabbed his hand, twisting the ring around his finger. He said, No, my dad gave this to me. It was his wedding ring, but he's dead now, so." I said, "Oh, sorry to hear that." The matter-of-fact way he blurted it out was strange. My father had died when I was young, but it wasn't my place to judge how this man processed death. He stressed, "No, I'm definitely single. But I am looking toward the future, maybe starting a family. You know, the whole American dream thing. You think a woman would like to raise a family here?" He was so unassuming that I questioned his ability to get laid, let alone find a woman to settle down with, though the right-sized bank account would broaden his prospects for a certain kind of woman. I said, "Yes and no. Most women like to help pick the house, but so long as you're open to redecorating once you find her, I'm sure you'll be fine. This house is a prime estate for both lifestyles. Have you seen the master?" A beat passed before he reacted. No. Please, show me." His smile was shy, almost endearing. I said, "Right this way." His footsteps were whisper soft compared to my heels tapping on the hardwoods of the winding staircase. I felt his eyes on my ass and knew better than to precede him up the stairs while I was wearing a short skirt. Luckily, it was a tailored dark-wash jean material, so maybe my modesty was still intact. We crested the second-floor landing, where I stepped to the side and let him take the lead. I said, "This whole floor is the master suite, complete with master bathroom, walk-in closet, and 2 balconies at either end." He stepped into the space and leaned forward to peek at the balcony off the front end of the house. Then he moved past the bed toward the back of the bedroom. I said, "The master bath and closet are around the corner on your right." While he was in there, I took a moment to check the pocket of my apron and make sure my business cards were on me. This was the kind of guy I could go on a date with and not be pressured. He was non-threatening, the complete opposite of my usual tastes. Annabelle never stipulated I couldn't go on a business date. If I could use the time to sell him on this house, even better. I felt inspired. This David guy could fulfill the promise Annabelle was holding over my head. Our deal wasn't the pink elephant in the room. It was the stinking pile of dung the pink elephant left in the room. The past couple of weeks had been filled with emotional drama. Obligation had turned into guilt, had turned into a smothering lover of sorts. It kissed me when I woke up in the morning, hounded me via texts all day, and then spooned me at night. All I wanted was out of this contract, and one date would make the pressure disappear. David fit the bill. I couldn't picture him badgering me to have sex at the end of the night. He was the kind of guy I could easily dump if things didn't go well and not feel an ounce of guilt about it. All I had to do was get him to ask me out. He already seemed halfway there. I met him at the archway that led to the back terrace. I said, "Now, this is the best part." I watched him walk out to the green space and spin in a circle. Not many homes can boast a balcony and a backyard off the master bedroom. Steps leading down to the first floor patio are over there. It's great because there are so many ways you can use this space. You can't even tell you're in LA until you take in the view from the second tier. It's amazing. Go ahead and check it out. He offered his hand. "Why don't you join me?" A shiver of hesitation ran through me. I hoped he would ask me out, but I didn't want him to read too much into it. "Okay," I said, smiling. I took David's hand. A voice behind me said, "Excuse me, miss." I froze. That tone, the dominant force with which he spoke, stopped me in my tracks. In an instant, I began to sweat. Ben was as persistent as he was good-looking, a disarming combination. His presence caught me off guard. I compared him to David and immediately divided them into two leagues. One set me on fire to the point where the other one ceased to exist. Too bad I didn't have security here to kick Ben out this time. I said, "What are you—" I failed to curb the heat in my tone and cleared my throat before continuing. "May I help you?" Ben said, "I have a few questions. Can I have a moment with you alone?" I said, "Of course, but you'll have to wait until I finish speaking to this gentleman." He insisted when I started to turn. "Please, miss." I promised to keep it brief. His expression was impatient, but unless the kitchen had caught fire, I couldn't imagine what the hurry was. I made sure to turn the oven off before I came upstairs. Shifting toward David, I said, "Do you mind? I'll only be a minute." David said, "Yeah, I do mind," raising his voice. He stepped toward Ben, going all alpha male on our intruder. "Can't you see she's in the middle of a potential sale? If the lady doesn't want to speak to you, maybe you should buzz off." I stepped back surprised. Ben came forward. "What did you say?" I could have sworn his shoulders doubled in size. "Why don't you come down here and say it to my face?" "Whoa, boys," I said. I put a hand to David's chest and found it scrawny but firm. "Let's take this down a notch. Why don't you enjoy the view and I'll take care of this." David's attention was on Ben like a dog on a bone, but after a little nudge, he backed down. "Fine. If you need me, I'll be right here." I smiled. "I think I can handle it, but thank you." I smoothed down my apron and marched over to Ben, who whisked me to the sitting area inside the bedroom to talk in private. Between clenched teeth, I said, "What the hell are you doing?" Out of the corner of my eye, I could see David studying us from afar, and I didn't want to draw his attention any further. Ben noticed too. He said, "How do you know that guy?" I said, "He's a walk-in, but what does that have to do with anything?" Reuben shifted on his feet and had the grace to look uncomfortable. "He had his hands all over you. Is that how you treat all your potential buyers?" I said, "No, just the ones with penises." His expression paled, amplifying my resolve. "You are unbelievable. You know that? Strong-arm tactics are not the way to win with me." His stare carried heat, distracting me from my anger and putting my attention on more distracting things. Standing this close to him again, so soon after the closet incident, I recalled what he could do, what he did do. It was suddenly hard to breathe, and despite my anger, I found myself staring at his lips. Lips I hadn't tasted yet. Yet? I tore my gaze away, wishing I had something to do with my hands. I settled for folding my arms instead. Did you come here to ask me out again? Because the answer's the same. Reuben said, why did Annabelle tell me you were a sure thing? If you girls played me for the sake of a laugh, I said, whatever happened that night? The images flipped through my head, giving me pause. I was not involved. My memory produced the last image of him before he vacated the premises. I most certainly was involved, according to the hickey I'd left on his neck. I said, I mean, not in the way you're thinking. He said, so then what's the deal? I shifted on my feet, exasperated. What would it take to get rid of him? I caught a glimpse of David, who appeared to be working himself up into coming over here. It was time to confess. I told Annabelle if she took an acting class, I would go out on a date, and she's already done her part, so now it's time I do mine. There, satisfied? He pleaded, go out with me. He grabbed my hand. Problem solved. His touch loosened my resolve, but I didn't budge. Please, he urged. In case you haven't noticed, this is me begging. He rolled his eyes up and mouthed the words, for fuck's sake. One date. Look, I know it's weird I keep showing up at these random places to find you, but I can explain if you let me. Just... He glanced over at David. Not here. Let's forget about that regrettable incident outside your office and start over from scratch. If you don't like me after that, you never have to see me again. I promise. I planted my hands on my hips and looked away. He had me at please if I was being honest. But once he got me alone, I wouldn't be able to say no. Like back in that closet, I didn't want to build a relationship on sex or sexual attraction alone. And if that was off the table, so was he. He was not relationship material. I glanced toward David. I have no doubt we'd have a good time, but I'm looking for a good life, for more than just a few fleeting moments. And besides, I already have a date. Ben's face crumbled. With who? That guy out there? I said, what's it to you? Now I was being childish. He said, you can't, Denise. Listen to me. Don't do this. I said, what's wrong with him? Looks harmless to me. Reuben shook his head. He's not... I know I can't tell you what to do, but... He huffed, looking frustrated. The big fucking deal was lost on me. David paced in the distance, making a show of dominance, but I mean, come on. If a teacup chihuahua bites you, does it really hurt? I shrugged. Like you said, it's one date. Hurts to lose, but you'll get over it. I walked away a few steps, but Ben grabbed my arm. It's not about losing. My head spun around. You what? Now it was his turn to blink hard. He broke off with a laugh, but there was nothing funny about it. I'm in way over my head with you, aren't I? David rushed towards us. Hey, keep your hands off her. Are you all right? I stepped in front of David before fists flew. Yeah, I'm fine. Come on, let's go have a cookie. I made them from scratch. I pulled David out of the bedroom and toward the landing at the top of the staircase, but I kept my eyes on Ben. He appeared lost in thought. I said to David, you like sugar and cinnamon? David looked back at Ben and scowled. When we got to the kitchen, Ben lurked in the background like a shadow, watching us and shaking his head over David's shoulder while I waited for him to ask me out. He kept dancing around it, so I did the deed. Ben had only himself to thank, since his presence had given me the extra push. I needed to get it through his thick skull that I didn't want to see him. And it worked. He left, and David and I discussed the details of when and where to meet. He asked to pick me up from my house, which I declined. I wasn't stupid. After David left, the pressure lifted. I was one step closer to fulfilling my end of the deal with Annabelle. I had a good feeling I'd gain confidence from this date, that perhaps this was the practice I needed to consider other offers in the future. More people came to view the house. As I showed them around, my actions became more robotic, and my focus began to wane. Saying yes to David had put a stamp of finality on the relationship between Ben and me, but our connection was still intact. I had a sneaking suspicion it was our laundry room rendezvous. My mind was made up, but my body was having a hard time moving on. If that was what was required to get over him, a one and done might fix that for me. But would that fix it for Ben? Or did he want more? Okay, that's the end of chapter 11. Please be sure to like the video, hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon, and we'll see you next time.